Moving on, Jim, when we talk about financial security on the ATP and these players right now that at least for 4 months won't be making any money, won't be playing tennis, what do you think the ATP should do in terms of helping some of these players?
Well, first of all, it's a question of what kind of resources they have. You start with that question. Where can you draw from? What do you actually have to be able to assist your players in need? So you start with that assessment, and then you start to look at, okay, where is the real need? Which players, at which level of prize money income do players not have enough to pay their rent, to not have enough to pay their electric bill or their phone bill? And I think we have to start looking right around the 200 prize money list from 2019. You think about someone like Mark Pullman's, he made $181,000. That's really great money in the real world, but he probably had $100,000 in expenses against that, and then taxes as well. So he probably, and he's a younger player, doesn't have a lot saved up. So players like that, more vulnerable than the higher ranked players, especially the ones that have been on tour for enough time to be able to accrue revenue and hopefully save quite a bit of money. But it's obviously just going to be a function of what actually is available for the tours and the slams to be able to help these players, Steve and Andy.
Yeah, and Jim, I think you're spot on. It's less of a main ATP Tour issue. The people that are on tour and have been for an extended period of time are probably okay. It's the up-and-coming guys who need, a pay or who are paycheck to paycheck and looking to make it to the next week. If only there was a slam somewhere out there that needed weeks that have been guaranteed to the ATP Tour later in the year, maybe there would be a financial trade-off. I don't know, Jim. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I suggested that the other week, that I think that all the tournaments that do get to be played at the end of this year, Andy, I think that they need to be supplementing the other tournaments. This is not a year for people to make profits. This is a year for tennis to help each other and survive, just like this is the micro version of the macro problem we're facing in the world right now. How do we keep people moving, keep people with clothing, food, shelter, all of that things? Tennis, we're very blessed. We're a luxury item, but there are people, I think about the people that work these tournaments. I think about the coaches, the physios, all of these are relying on all this. There's so many pieces to this puzzle, but it is a function of how much extra money do you have, or how many loans can you get to tide people over until we turn the spigot back on.
And the other thing that I want to jump in here and say to the viewers at home, because I've heard a version of this question over the last couple of weeks, the ATP Tour is just frankly not even close to as flush as a lot of the Grand Slam events. They are separate entities. They don't have a lot of overlap, minus the ranking system and minus things that kind of benefit both of them. So let's make this question about the powers that be, the biggest powers and the most financially successful entities of tennis, and how can they help kind of the everyday ATP Tour function.
That's a great point, Andy. And when you compare, Jim, tennis to a sport like golf, I mean, you see Rafa Nadal 25 times the amount of money as the guy ranked 100 in the world. In golf last year, I looked it up, was Brooks Koepka, made about $10 million. The guy at 100, Chris Stroud, made $1 million. So the disparity is, it's 10 times from 1 to 100 as opposed to 25 times. How can tennis even it out a little bit more?
Well, we broke this down at the U.S. Open last year on TC Live over 3 different days about how prize money has been moving at the tour's lead on both the women's and the men's tour. They've been moving more of these new prize money to the earlier rounds into qualifying. But they have a 5-year plan on the ATP to do that, to try and bring it so they don't take, let's say, the winner's check down from, call it $4 million down to $3.5 million. This crisis is an opportunity to fast track that, to help the lower ranked players. And this money trickles down to players ranked 225 in the world at the slam level who come play in the qualifying. I mean, I think we need quickly to move to static increases on these tournaments. No more should we see the finalist make the winner make twice as much as the finalist. That should not happen. At the slam level, we should be talking more like 70% increases from round one. At the ATP and WTA tour level, more like 60%, because they don't have as big of a pot of money. And at the challenger level, where players are just trying to survive and keep the lights on, I'm talking 30% per round increases. No one's in the challengers to get rich. They're there to try and get to the next level. Now is the time to push that initiative forward, and I mean right now.
Yeah, it's a good marketing tactic for these slams to announce what the winner's prize money increase is year over year, and then you compare it back to what it was, when I played or when Jim played. I haven't gone into the number specifically, but I know what I made when I finished #1 in the world year end with a slam title, and what it is now is you're looking at 4 or 5x. The Challenger Tour, what Jim is talking about, the winner's prize money back when I played, I think it was like $7,000. And right now, I think it's just around $7,000. So Jim is spot on as far as where we need to focus resources, especially a rainy day type fun like we're going through right now.
All right, I think we have our two commissioners for the sport of tennis right here. Andy Roddick, Jim Courier. You figured it all out.
Consultants.
All right, much more with Andy Roddick when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Tennis Channel Live.